Michael Carus comes on stage. Hi, Michael. Good to see you. So Michael and I have in common that we both studied physics at the University of Cologne. Only some years in between. So we have the same alma mater. But you are not here to talk about physics. It's even a little bit more of chemistry.
Or a little bit.
But you know the basic of chemistry is also physics, so we know. So, but this is not a seminar here. Happy to have you on stage. And first, a big applause to Michael. And yesterday we learned that the Nobel Prize for Economy was given for creative destruction, or the thoughts about creative destruction generating growth. Michael, in his decades of career at the nova-Institut, I will explain in a sentence later what nova-Institut is doing. Michael is not creative destructure, but he's a creative construction, in particular on everything that comes with biomass, and including bioplastics and bio-based industry. So, and that describes very well. So you are the one of the managing directors of the nova-Institut, south of Cologne in Hürth. The Institute and you are recognized Europeans' leading experts, market researchers and policy advisors in the renewable carbon economy. And I know that together with others, we started 5 years ago the Renewable Carbon Initiative, what is one important cornerstone. And we're happy to have you as an expert on stage for the last presentation today. If you give us the chance afterwards to ask questions, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of questions, and this is really a visionary travel in the future, but it's important to have such thoughts, even on a very pragmatic fair like the K 2025, to see where we are in 3 years or in 30 years from now. So the floor is yours, Michael. Here is the clicker, and I think the slides are already there.
Yeah, many thanks. It's working? Okay. Yeah, my topic is it okay you hear me? It's fine? I'm already very close, okay. Okay. Yeah, when will CCU go mainstream? CCU means carbon capture utilization. Utilization of CO2, the feedstock of the chemical industry, is the future. And I will try to convince you that this is much closer in the future than we think sometimes. I have one slide on nova-Institut. We're working on all renewable carbon sources. You see in the middle, it's biomass, it's CO2 and recycling. These are the 3 renewable carbon sources which avoid or substitute fossil carbon from the ground. And we're doing this in these 4 departments: technology and markets, technology scouting, market research. Sustainability is mainly life cycle assessment. Communication, if you do new great things, you need the right way to address the market. And last but not least, economy and policy. My presentation has 3 parts. The tremendous potential of CO2 utilization. I will only give a few examples today because you can talk 2 hours on this topic alone. The second question is, what are the bottlenecks, what are the barriers? So why it's not already there today on big scale? And then number 3 is growth and availability and cost of renewable energy, because as you see in a minute, this is closely related. As soon as we have enough cheap renewable energy, CCU can really go mainstream. And so I will also show you here some views, global views, because our perspective in Europe is a little bit limited. The world market goes really different what we think here today. This is a net zero scenario developed by nova-Institut and Renewable Carbon Initiative, how we can fade out fossil carbon in the future. Don't know whether this also works. Oh yeah, okay, great. You see here the carbon demand of the chemical industry today. It's 550 million tons carbon. We're talking here not about the process energy, but we're talking about what is embedded in the molecules, in the products. Oh, sorry, this was too quick. And if you try to fade out fossils completely till 2050, You see here the three options. You have recycling, of course, a lot of chemical recycling. Mechanical is only a small share here. You have bio-based, which is mainly limited to 20% due to availability. And you see the 25% CO2 based. And you see also that the demand for carbon from today till 2050 will double for the chemical industry. Not in Europe, but on global scale, double. So when we want to replace the fossil carbon here from this double amount, we need all three renewable carbon sources. And today we're looking mainly to CO2 based. And we will also see in the next slides that in principle, CCU can also cover 100%. So it's not limited to 25, but of course we have recycling, of course we have biomass in the chemical industry. So finally CO2 has not to make 100%, but you see later even this would be possible. When we're looking here to the most important building blocks in our chemical industry today, made from crude oil. You see here we can also produce all these chemicals from biomass. We can do it from CO2, this is a violet purple one, or from recycling. So in the future we can also keep the existing chemical industry. In addition, we will also have a new chemical industry with new pathways, but even the traditional chemical industry can be fed by other carbon sources. If you want to use the slides here, you see on the left where you can find the graphics in high resolution, and we are happy if you share it. So if you need high resolution, please take it from our webpage. One very important new molecule here is methanol. Methanol can be easily derived from biomass and CO2. And with methanol on the right-hand side, you can produce olefins and also aromatics. So one forecast is that the role of methanol will be much bigger than today, and it will also replace, for example, a lot of crackers. The next slide is showing the carbon dioxide utilization, that there are many, many pathways. Too many look to all to them, but you see many of the pathways are already with high TRL, up to 9. So it's not a question of technology, it's just a question of implementation and economics. And yeah, you have on the left-hand side, you have the chemical pathways to utilize CO2. On the right-hand side, you have the biological pathways. And in many cases, you need hydrogen as an energy carrier, because as you all know here, of course, CO2 is a very dead molecule. And so to activate it, to get the carbon out of it, we need energy. And some chemists will say, that's not possible, we can't use CO2. My answer is, if you look to nature, nature is taking CO2, solar and water, and producing all this billion of biomass. So it's possible. And if you do it in a technical way here, it's about 50 to 100 times more efficient than biomass. So we mimicking the natural process, but with a much higher efficiency. If you need later some additional arguments, because today I'm limited in time here, of course, this study here, making a case for carbon capture and utilization, is a Bible of the CSU community, because all the benefits are listed in this report. If you imagine in the future, if you have cheap renewable energy, you can produce your raw material wherever you are in the world. You are not relying on crude oil, natural gas, on biomass or on coal. You just can harvest CO2 from the atmosphere, and with hydrogen you can produce everything we have today in the chemical and plastic industry. So this is really a complete new century will start when we are so independent from raw material supplier. And all this is described in this report. On the right-hand side, you see that already today products are on the market. Some examples here which are produced from CO2. So these are, of course, today niche markets, but it shows that it's possible. And one of the most impressive slides is my next slide here. We have calculated here the demand in 2050 for the global chemical industry is 1,150 million tons carbon, or 1 billion ton carbon. And to get this carbon via methanol, here's a calculation, and at the end, what you need is this small share of the Sahara Desert will be enough with photovoltaic and a lot of conservative assumptions to cover the entire demand of the global chemical industry. And if you look to all deserts in the world, we need only 0.8% of the areas of all subtropical deserts. So it will never be a problem to supply the chemical industry with carbon. It's just a question of investment. And this is the area of Greece. So we need the area of Greece with photovoltaic to produce enough carbon for the global chemical industry. I think these are really good news. The only question is, when will it come mainstream? And this is my main topic, and I come later to this question. We are here on the K show, so it's also interesting to look to polymers. And here are different pathways to polymers. Finally, you can produce all polymers from CO2. You have on the bottom, you have some standard polymers, examples, PE, PP, PET, and so on. On the top, you have some special polymers which are not produced from crude oil. So if you start with CO2, there are some other options to do special polymers. But in the end, you have a wide range of technologies to come to a wide range of different polymers. That's also good news. And I will just show you some highlights from latest development that will see the potential. We had in April this year, we had a conference on CCU, and there was two companies. This was a winner this year. It was a company from Estonia making battery-grade graphite. The next company was from Taiwan making textiles from CO2. And the next company, a very efficient way to make methanol. And when you see this in the overview on the next slide, these are really the latest highlights you could imagine. So we're starting with the first one. It's the first non-isocyanate polyurethane from CO2 produced in Taiwan. It's on the market. It's used in high-performance textiles and footwear. Fantastic development and on the market. The second one is, and then we have two of those investments in Europe, in Netherlands, and the other will take place in Belgium, where companies on 200,000 ton scale, so no pilot, not demo, real commercial plants, want to produce ethylene and propylene from methanol, and even polyethylene, polypropylene from methanol. And the methanol is in some cases first from bio, but the plan is clearly to make it from CO2. So these are two new investments for polymer production in Europe. Then we go into Finland. There they capture CO2 emissions from pulp plants and making PHAs polymers from it. Also great. And the next one, this was really impressive for me. There was in Korea an institute making the first functional electric motor without any metals. Because we have often the question, do we have enough copper or iron for photovoltaic or other things? Now it's even possible to make with carbon nanotubes without any metals a motor, and the motor is running, and you can buy this motor. It's an ultra lightweight motor. And then the next innovation to make battery-grade graphite and carbon nanotubes from CO2 from Estonia. So that means finally you can make a motor only from CO2, a full motor, which is really working. And this graphite production from CO2 is even on much lower temperature than from coal. So it's also, it seems to be even competitive. These are really great news, latest news. And this one here, one of the Nobel Prize winners in chemistry, published last week, makes this metallic organic frameworks. And they are also a very interesting way to capture CO2. So even the last Nobel Prize is in direct relation to our topic today. Okay, so we saw a little bit what all can happen with CO2 utilization, but what are the bottlenecks, what are the barriers? And here are the barriers. The lack of suitable policy support in Europe, for example. Under Biden, it was different, but Trump is the same problem again. There is a clear focus on CCS, on sequestration, and not on using the CO2. I hope this will change in the future, but at the moment, it's not a good framework for investment. Then the next thing is we have in Europe and US not enough cheap renewable electricity or green hydrogen available. And this is mainly due to the system failure. Because the problem is renewable energy is expensive, when a plant implemented only partially, only full implemented renewable energy is cost efficient. And this we will see in the example of China in my last part of the presentation. And the problem is the grid. So the grid is not suitable to cover this fluctuating solar and wind. And we have no battery storage. And in Germany, we know the decision was now to delay solar and wind and build natural gas plants. You could also make a new grid and battery storages. That would be the answer we have see in Asia. That would be much more clever. And as soon as these bottlenecks are solved, CCU will go mainstream. And the question is, when will this happen? We heard here at the beginning 30, 40 years. Asia, I think now. EU, next 5 years. Global, 5 to 10 years. I think we are much closer to this peak, to this change as we think. And I will show in the last part why I think so. And here is one of the reasons why we're not harvesting the benefits from solar energy. This is a typical week in Germany. You see the price level is the red curve, and it's even about several hours a day, the price is below zero, and at night it's 40 cents again. So we have this fluctuation, and how to get a cheap solar energy all the time? You need a storage, you need a battery storage, then you can have all of the time 3 to 5 cents even in Middle Europe. But this is not existing so far. So this is the bottleneck we have to cover, advanced grid, AI, and batteries. And because I think that in Europe we will see some progress in the next years. I will not go to all these acts here, but we'll see a lot of new regulation in Brussels, now first time covering CCU, and the framework for investment in CCU will get much better the next 5 years. Now we come into the last point, to cost of renewable energy. And here are just some facts, and I think these facts are not well known in Europe and also US. So first thing is renewable energy overtook coal as the world leading source of electricity the first half of this year. So 34.3% of the energy, electricity, was made from solar and wind, and only 33% from coal. So it's a history breakthrough of renewable energy. It's the most important source of electricity worldwide. And also the second point is really interesting. All the additional growth with electric cars and IE data center, the additional demand for electricity can be fully covered by renewable energy. That means we will not see relevant investment in fossil anymore because everything is covered now with the new countries. And we see developing countries, especially China, leading this. And I show some data to this in a minute. And also the last point is very interesting. More than 90% of the new renewable energy capacity is now cheaper than fossil fuels. So that means they're not doing investment in solar and wind because it's so green. Is in most cases the cheapest way to make electricity. And this cover has a lot of information. I try to bring it quickly to you. This is the capacity share of renewables today, 43%. The share in production, 29%. Expected till 2030, 77% electricity capacity by solar and wind and a little hydro. And nearly 70% of the global electricity production by wind and solar. And if you see what is leading here, it's mainly solar. So the capacity of solar is by far the biggest capacity of all alternatives. And here, another slide on this. Here you see the decrease of the price of solar over the last decades. It's about more than 90% cheaper than 20 years ago. And here, even more impressive, is the investment. The green one is the global investment in renewables, and the black one, investment in fossil plants. And if you would add nuclear, it's almost not visible. So I think the decision is happened on our planet. The way to solar and wind is completely there, and only in Europe we are not so aware about it. But if you would live in China or in Asia, you would be, or in Africa, you would see the revolution has happened. And the next point here, solar energy is the cheapest source of power. There was a big study on that. and the price of solar energy is about 2 to 2.5 cents per kilowatt hour. And this is cheaper than all other sources. And even if you combine it with the storage, solar plus storage systems are cost effective as gas power plants. So even with a storage system, it's not cheaper than coal, but cheaper than natural gas. And so we see that the combination between solar, grid and storage is the key, and we should strongly invest here in Europe. Now the last two slides on China. This is just published in China, this new plan 25 to 2030. They want to install 253 gigawatts of solar capacity. So it's about 200 nuclear power plants. This is the area. And the interesting thing is that it's not only for energy, at the same time, it's for the desert rehabilitation. So they're also creating new biotopes below the photovoltaic system. And even agricultural land in the desert is shadowed, and so it can also become agricultural land. And finally, you see at the top here, they want to a battery capacity for 450 gigawatt hour by 27. This is a huge capacity for batteries. So China goes just ahead, and we should follow as quick as possible. And here you see the battery capacity today on world level, and the blue one is China. So China has about 50% of the global battery capacity, and soon 80%. And so it's not only on subsidies, it's just that you have a vision and you go ahead. And this in our countries, we have always some brakes on, and half the population want to go back to the 70s. And in China, they want to go just ahead, and we have to follow this. And yeah, this was my last slide, and here are some coming conferences on recycling, on AI, and on CCU early next year. And I'm happy to answer your questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent presentation, and with a clear view to the future, so that you mentioned some if and whens. I would like to come back to that, but first, the question: is there a question from the audience? Here is a